How much commission should you be paying in 2026? I'll be breaking down all that and more in this video to help you at the end figure out the perfect pay plan that will work for your company, because there is no one-size-fits-all solution. The way this video is going to work is I'm going to give some groundwork of what's changed over the last few years and why the pay plans that you may have used in the past aren't relevant today with what's been changing. I'm going to break down the 3 critical changes and then how to factor in the best pay plan for you. My name is Adam Bensman. Welcome or welcome back. Now let's get started. Now, pay plans and commissions are some of the most popular topics inside the RSRA community. When you're in our app right now, the private members only app, and you search the word commissions, as it stands, and I'm looking off my monitor, there's 138 posts, 369 comments. You'll see even more if you search the word pay plan, comp plan, or compensation structure. It is just exhaustive, and for good reason. Because not long ago, I ran an owners roundtable where we gathered P&Ls, profit and loss statements of companies, and did an audit together where we did a peek behind the curtains. And one of the most common places for margin erosion was in overpaying commissions. Now, I know I need to give this a very big disclaimer. I believe you should take incredible care of your people and your team. Absolutely. And I believe that a company's sole purpose is to make profit. Now, someone that will balk, because by the way, the first time I heard that, I thought that is soulless, that is insensitive. What about your mission? What about your greater meaning and your why? And I realized that without profit, none of that is doable. I mean, the game of capitalism is to make money. Now, it's not that money is the end. That's a very big distinction. Money is the fuel for the why. So if you're not running a financially healthy company, profit is the number one indicator of your financial health. Your financial health is what allows you to create an amazing company culture, take care of your people, take care of your customers, and stand behind your work so you can fix things when they break or go wrong, because they do. It's not if, it's when. Now, what's happened over the years is, as a roofing company, your overhead goes up. And I've never once heard that roofer that says, hey, you know what? I'm just so happy because over the last couple of years, my overhead has just surprisingly gone down lower than ever before, right? Said no one ever. Overhead is continuing to rise. We are seeing this with the subscriptions to death, all the new softwares, all the new tech. That's one category. The second category, marketing expenses are going up because leads are going down and it's becoming more and more expensive. That's been a trend. The third bucket is price sensitivity in the market. And that's resulting in some people, which I advise strongly against, cutting prices to be competitive. Now, what this means is that in today's market in 2026 and beyond, your profits are under more pressure than ever before because it is cutthroat out there. So what's happened in the past, and this happened very recently, after this P&L audit, we had a member that realized they were overpaying in commissions. Now, the hard part is it came from a very good place. And this is a mistake I've personally made. And it's a mistake that I see being made by companies, specifically young, hungry companies that want to grow. They'll often think to themselves, man, if I could just offer like a really competitive wage, I'll attract more talent. But it's far more complicated than that. So what ends up happening is it works for a little bit and then you realize it doesn't. And that's what happened to this gentleman. He said, oh my gosh, I literally can't keep running my company like this. This is immense margin erosion. This is the main place. I need to shift from the old days of like the 10% overhead and then the profit sharing anywhere from like, let's say 35 to 50% to something more sustainable, which I'll talk through here in just a minute. And when he did that, it upset a lot of people because I get it. As a salesperson, you're like, wait a minute, you're paying me less, and it feels awful. And at the same time, it's the right thing to do to protect the financial health and the longevity of the company. Because if you don't do that, you'll run the company into the ground or end up in a spot where sales reps aren't even able to get paid because there's no way to get them paid. So here's the trends that I see shaping up in the industry right now. And before I get into this, I have to give a quick disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I am not your attorney. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm giving you the guardrails of consideration to think through as you navigate these decisions. I recommend that you consult with your tax professional and your attorney before factoring in any of this. So let's begin on the top 3 changes. Stick around to the end. I'm going to walk through final considerations for you. All right, so change number one is a continual shift from 1099 or independent contractor to W-2. I've been covering this ad nauseum since March 11th, 2024, when the Fair Labor Standards Act was updated with language that made that gray area of independent contractor to W-2 a lot less gray. It's a very controversial topic. Some folks don't agree with me, but the way I've studied it, the way that it makes sense to me and what I've heard from attorneys, W-2 is the way to go if you want to be on the up and up. Hey, small consideration too, if you are a company that is looking to exit at some point, if you have any employee misclassifications, a potential buyer, that could be a really, really big problem, all right? Now, for some folks it has been, for others it hasn't, but as you get down through that process in the reps and warranties section of the deal transaction, you'll likely find that you will continue to own that liability even after the deal's closed, and that liability is big and it lasts a while. All right, so trend number two. People are trying to accommodate a sales rep's desire to have consistent cash flow because they're finding commission only even harder to deal with in today's times. So one problem, and I watched this happen, okay? Again, I'm talking about providing more consistent cash flow as a trend, is I had a member of ours, and this is a true story. He called me up, he was like, dude, I switched from 1099 W-2. I started offering a small salary. Man, recruiting got so much easier. I brought in all this talent. I wish I did this so much sooner. Fast forward 18 months. I get a phone call, same owner. Adam, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. Yes, it made recruiting a lot easier. I had a lot of churn, and I ended up wasting an immense amount of money. It killed our profitability. Now, why? When you bring salespeople in, if you don't have an incredibly powerful training system, an incredibly high accountability, and a standard of you need to hit this quota by this date or you're gone, what ends up happening is you're just paying out, paying out, paying out, paying out, and you get bled dry because then the people end up leaving, quit, get fired, and you have no collateral. In other words, they didn't make deals for you to even hand to someone else or enough traction in the pipeline. So the kind of answer that some folks have come up with is a draw against commission. What this will allow is, again, there are some local, state, and federal laws that you need to be mindful of where you live as it pertains to minimum wage, overtime, etc. All right. So this isn't a catch-all for anyone. Some people have had success doing this, where they'll say, okay, just as an example, you get $500 a week as a draw. So after 4 weeks, that's $2,000, but it's a draw against commission. Now, let's say they brought in $8,000 in commissions in that 4 weeks. You would pay them you'd take the 8,000, subtract whatever's been paid so far, and then you'd give them a check for the remaining 6,000. This is a draw against commission. Other folks have experimented with paid training or bonuses paid after completing training. However, the HR world is far more complicated than it may seem when you start unraveling the technicalities and legalities. That's why it is so important for you to run this by your attorney and your CPA. All right. Now, trend number 3 is a reduction in commission. And I know any sales reps that are watching are probably shouting at me saying, you know, we deserve to be paid more. We're the bread and butter of the company. If it weren't for us, you wouldn't be there. Yes, all that is true. And the company needs to be really healthy. Now, think of this. The old ways, 10% profit, 50% commission. To date, I've not talked to a roofing company owner whose overhead is at 10%. Most of them are way higher. Many double, and then some. So now you're saying I'm not even covering my full overhead and I'm splitting the amount 50-50, which means if you're not even taking out the overhead, you have a business partner that's earning more than 50%, yet the difference is this salesperson gets paid no matter what, but meanwhile, the company holds 100% of the liability, okay? And they're in charge of financing and funding the project. This is probably the most unfair trade that ever existed. It's a great experience for the sales rep and a terrible deal for the roofing company. And as I shared before with P&Ls and margin erosion, rising overhead costs, rising marketing costs, commission is a variable expense and it needs to be in a healthy and agreeable place. So what are people doing? They're moving away from paying off the profit for a few reasons and shifting towards a percentage of gross. Now, here are the few reasons why they're removing, and this is one of the many things I share of why I don't believe you should be paying off the profit, is the following. One, if the sales rep is not responsible for the profit, he or she should not be paid off of the profit. Why? Well, because your incentives should follow the results you're wishing to create. So what do you want? Volume, then pay off the volume. Number two, it makes it very difficult for a sales rep to project what it is that they will earn. If they come home and they tell their spouse or significant other, I just got this new job selling roofs, and like, well, what's it like? Well, it's commission only. Well, how much are you going to earn? Percentage of profit. Well, how do you know what profit is? I won't know till the job's done. What's an average profit? I'm not really sure. How do you project how do you put together an income plan? Meanwhile, if you say, hey, you get, and I'm just using simple math, 10% of a sale. Well, what's an average sale? $20,000, $2,000 per sale. Great. Sell 50 roofs, make 100 grand. Pretty easy math. Now, it's not only easier, but it's a much better experience for both parties, the sales rep and the company. You're not opening the books and wondering whether the numbers are right and the invoices are right. You just go off the gross. All right. You don't need to be opening your books to every single person in your company, in my opinion. All right. Now, you might be wondering, okay, great. So we're making the shift from 1099 to W-2. We're trying to solve for consistent cash flow for people without high risk of overpaying salaries. And by the way, on that overpaying of salaries, one of the other reasons I'm a draw against commission is if you look at doing a salary, you'll find that your top producers are actually, their cost is a lower percentage and your low producers have a higher percentage of cost. And it's very difficult to project like a really healthy scale of commissions. I've gone through this. It's tough. Okay. And then the third one is paying lower commissions because of everything that I shared. That's lower compared to what it used to be and how I call it the Wild West days used to run. So where are people landing? They're landing in a range, about 5% to 10%. And there's some plus or minuses with all these considerations. But it's really important for you to realize that there is no one size fits all solution when it comes to pay plans. It is highly customized to your company, your staffing, your overhead. So here are the considerations. Number one, are they 1099 or W-2? Number two, are they self-generating leads or are they provided leads? Number three, are they bringing their own vehicle or do they have a company provided vehicle? Number four, are there any benefits or do you provide 401k, health, dental, vision, or anything else? Number six, do you provide any other equipment? Number seven, are you providing monthly or annual bonuses or just straight commission? Do you see how many factors there are? Then the final one, which is the most important, is their role and responsibility. What is their role? What is their responsibility? If it's simply, I show up to a lead that's been given to me, I sign the contract, I hand it to the office, I'm on to the next one, is going to be a very different pay plan than someone who's out knocking doors, self-generating leads, signing a contract, putting together a build order, managing the project, and collecting commissions, which, by the way, is not an optimal plan, in my opinion, to be using any longer. That, again, was where the old 10, 50, 50 days stemmed from, is sales reps used to run at what we called cradle to grave. Those days are behind us. It's not, roofing then is not what it is now. So I hope this video helps you at least get the creative juices going to create a pay plan that is sustainable and profitable for everybody involved so you can continue to run a highly profitable company. If you want help navigating your pay plan or getting feedback from value-aligned roofing company owners, then click the link in the description or go to rsra.org/join to learn more about becoming a member and getting real-time feedback to help you grow.